All right, and we're back with another episode. And joining me today, Mike Whiteside. How's it going?
It's good, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. Um, for starters, tell us about yourself and where you come from.
It's just a pretty, I guess, straightforward story for me. I'm just your average ex financial advisor turned country singer songwriter. Pretty simple, right?
Oh,
No, so I'm from Port Perry. I'm from a small town just outside of Toronto, and I had gone to school for business in university. I was playing hockey there, and at that time, I had jumped right into financial planning, and that was kind of my career right out of university. And I was dating a girl, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. Or I guess you could say, fortunately, it didn't work out. And I was actually at a Kenny Chesney concert of all places with her family, and I'd always been in music. I'd always done it recreationally, and they had looked at me and they were just like looking up at him and then looking at me and being like, "You need to be doing this." And that was kind of the spark for me in terms of really, pursuing this as more than just a passion because I'd always done it growing up. I'd always played a little bit, played shows, did stuff like that, but never really took it seriously. Hockey was always a big passion for me. Like I had played junior and then I played in university while I'd gotten my degree. And so music was always on the back burner, but it was luckily thanks to these types of incidents. I say it started with a haircut, a table saw, and a breakup of all things. And don't worry, I still have all my fingers and toes. And
yeah.
my nickname isn't Stumpy, but there was a kind of a weird sequence of events that allowed me to really kind of pursue music. And looking a couple years later, I mean, this concert was back in 2018. I've been able to do some pretty cool things in a really short period of time. So I'm just really grateful for everything that's happened along the way and excited for what the future's got in store for me with my musical journey.
Absolutely. Awesome. So when you decided to do this, like, pursue it and stuff, what were the first steps that you took?
I don't even know if I knew, and I still don't even know if I do know what I'm doing. You kind of figure it out as you go, but I think the first step was just getting involved. And the first thing for me was starting to write music.
Yeah.
It was just because I never could really understand when I was growing up. I'm like, how do they come up with that? Like, how does that? Like, how are they, speaking? Like, where do these melodies come from? I just couldn't understand and I couldn't comprehend it. So it was really just starting to write and writing some really crummy music that wasn't very good at the start, but over time and with COVID and being able to do a ton of co-writes just because of all the downtime, and now through the emergence of Zoom, being able to write with people basically all over the world. It's really taken the songwriting aspect from something that might have been a little bit more difficult to set up in the past and really made it very easy for people to connect. Even just you and I, right? Like being able to connect over Zoom here, I think has been a kind of a great emergence through COVID as we're learning how to, live in a digital world and be able to connect with more people than we probably would have in the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean I say this to so many people in these interviews, but I hated this at the start, the whole
I know.
digital thing, and didn't like how it looked. And then, of course, yeah, we can spice it up and do all that stuff, but I'm just more of an in-person kind of guy.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and then no, but it's been great because like you say, I wouldn't be interviewing you today because you're across the country, right?
Yeah, we'd have to be setting up a flight or something and then probably booking it a month out. It'd be lots of logistics behind it, that's for sure.
Exactly. So it's great. And then now we meet, we know each other, and then when we do see each other at an event, it's what's going on, Mike? Like
Yeah. That was the biggest thing about CCMAs I found this year was I felt like I know so many people,
yeah.
even though I'd never met them before. So it was kind of cool to finally go up and be like, oh, hey, that's who you are. And,
Yeah.
that was a really cool experience for me. It's just like I knew so many people, but I had never even met them before. So that
And
was a really cool experience this year for sure.
and it's crazy. And then you act like you really do know them. Like it's I don't know, it's a strange,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Well, you
know,
get to know people pretty personally through co-writing, right? I feel like people really bring out a vulnerable side and they tell their own stories, and you're telling your own story. So I think you can really get to know a person when you are songwriting, because typically the stuff that they're bringing into the rooms are stuff that are pretty personal,
That's true.
for sure.
Very true. What do you find your favorite thing is about the whole co-writing process?
I think that when you're by yourself, you can maybe look at an idea you have and be like, oh, that's not good enough. Or you might have something that you write down and it actually might not be good enough. And then you have somebody else who comes into the room and is just like, hey, like maybe let's throw this twist on it. And it can like completely revitalizes the line or the melody or the hook or whatever it might be. So I think it allows you to become a really good songwriter a lot quicker, I guess would be a better way to put it. But I think that it allows you to have some sort of objectivity both on your side as well as their side, to be like, hey, let's get the best song that we can possibly get out of this, because people's time is valuable. For me, songwriting, I've made a really big focus. I've wrote a lot, but it's been more focused on stuff for me. So I've really found my crew of people that I write with and continue to write with well, and I've narrowed it down. I don't necessarily write with anybody and everybody, just because my time, as well as yours, right? We get it. It's like we only have so much time in a day. We kind of got to allocate it where we can.
Right.
So I found my crew of people that I find I write the best with, and have really just continued to write with them and kind of get better and better. And then, meet people throughout and, continue to find people that I really mesh well with. Cause I think that's a big thing, is just, you can go into some co-writes and it meshes really well. And then you can go into others and it maybe doesn't mesh so well. So, the whole experience is, I would say, I guess, long story short, is it makes you a better writer, I think, in a quicker time frame.
For sure. And where are you finding your inspiration when you write, let's say by yourself?
Yeah, it's usually just kind of like driving down the road or something like that, or like I hear something and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, maybe there's like a little tidbit of something there that I could kind of write down. So I'll open up my notes and I'll just toss it in there, and then I'll call up my friends and be like, hey, I was thinking about this. What do you think? And then we'll call somebody else and we'll bring it into a write, and then it might completely change or it might stay the same. It's there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, obviously past experiences, wrote a lot about breaking up, and then wrote a lot about falling in love, and your typical stuff, right?
Yep.
But yeah, just life experiences. I've been able to write some pretty personal ones that I still haven't obviously released out, but hopefully get to one day. That
Right.
maybe go a little bit deeper than the surface level love songs and breakup songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's always a timing, I think, for songs when you want to release them. I know guys who've held songs for 6, 7 years and they're like, this is the project to release it.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I totally get that. Um, all right, man. Now let's chat about the Boots and Hearts Emerging Artist Showcase.
Yeah.
We're top seven, correct?
Yeah. That was unexpected but amazing. I that was actually my first performance. So
Wow.
I kind of went from 0 to 100 pretty quick, but I'm super grateful. For me, I've done acting and modeling stuff like that in the past, and it was very similar in terms of getting out there and putting on a performance when it was showtime. So to say there were no nerves would probably be pushing a little bit, but once I was up there and on stage, they completely melted away, and I just sank right into it. I absolutely loved every single second of it. Um, I think I got everything out of that experience that I expected and more. I met a ton of amazing people from the industry, as well as other artists and other session players and stuff like that. So overall, that entire experience for me, I would say, was a 10 out of 10. Wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome. And is there like what can you tell us? Some behind the scenes stories you could share, some fun stuff. What goes
I'll put
on
it
back
this way: it
there,
was
man?
extremely hot. It was. I remember standing. We were all standing in the back there, and it was obviously different this year because it was the first concert back. Basically, I think
Right.
probably in Ontario. I'm not sure if it was the first concert back in Ontario, but in terms of like, let's call it festivals,
Right.
Boots and Hearts being back, that was the first show. I know they did one a little bit later in the summer as well. So it was it was interesting to see. I think everybody was still kind of getting adjusted to just okay, like okay, we're open again. How's this gonna go? But it was putting on a show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the rules. Like Calgary Stampede, we had the same thing. Like they had their rules backstage. It wasn't like previous years.
Yeah,
It was kind of like, hey, you performed, you hung out for a little bit. Okay, now
yeah,
carry on, kind of thing. Like, and I get it. It's not like they had food or different things. Like it was very different,
for sure.
just because of the rules and restrictions and that stuff. So, but hey, at least the show got to go on, right?
The show got to go on, and it was an amazing experience. Kudos to the Boots and Hearts crew because they did an amazing job. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, hopefully one day I'll be able to play on the main stage as a headliner or something like that. But that would be the goal, right? To get back there some way somehow.
You'll get there, man. Keep at it. Keep at it.
Sounds good.
Um, cool, man. So for someone who's never heard your music before, how would you describe your sound to them?
I would say basically if like Jordan Davis, Sam Hunt, and like Cole Swindell had a little musical baby,
Okay.
wrapped it up in a nice bow, and then presented it to you, I would kind of fall in that wheelhouse, kind of more on the pop country side,
Yep.
with my own little twist. I say it's funny because what I grew up on was probably very different. I mean, I'm trying to think like ZZ Top was played a lot in my household growing up and like stuff like that. Like, um, you probably like a Kenny Chesney, Montgomery Gentry, Toby Keith, like that's the stuff I kind of listened to growing up, and maybe there is a hint of it. But once I got into listening to it myself and in like high school and stuff like that, it was like a lot of Sam Hunt, Florida Georgia Line, Jordan Davis now and stuff like that. So um, yeah, if you could wrap those three guys up in kind of a little bow, I would say probably fall a little bit into that wheelhouse.
Yeah. All right. And these are so like you said, these are all artists that you're listening to now, or what kind of music are you listening to while driving, let's say?
Oh, it varies. I don't. It's funny because I find a lot of times I'm like listening to myself. If I know that sounds weird, it's more or less listening to like work tapes and like listening
Okay,
to
yeah.
new mixes that you're getting from your producers, listening to it like hundreds and hundreds of times. So it's like people are like, "Well, what do you listen to?" I'm like, I don't really know if I listen to too much music. I maybe don't even listen so much to country music. I listen to a lot of like alternative stuff. So even like I'm trying to think like Laney, like stuff like that, like kind of outside band Camino, like
Yep.
those types of people that are just kind of maybe a little bit out, not so much country. So I switch it up. There's
Hey,
no rhyme or reason to what I do.
I know guys like who was it? I knew like even DJs back in the day, and I'm just like, do you still listen to this same stuff that you're blasting in the nightclub every weekend? He goes, I
Yeah,
listen to Frank Sinatra, man. And I'm like, what kind of thing? Like
he's my idol, Frank Sinatra. He's my idol.
he's like it, but it kind of like threw me off. I was like,
I
whoa,
know.
I didn't expect it kind of thing, right?
I find the same thing. I know. I said this. I asked my producer that because I listen to like a lot of podcasts and stuff like that too, and I always like to be learning, right?
Right.
So I could just be even watching something or not watching something, but like listening to something from a YouTube clip or something like that while I'm driving, just trying to learn.
Yep.
And it's maybe not even music. And I said that to my producer as well, and he's like, I just listen to podcasts because if you're listening to it so much and so much, you kind of have to be able to turn it off every once in a while too. I totally get that.
100%.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Um, all right. Well, let's chat about your newest single, My
Yeah.
Kind of Paradise. Tell us about it and how it all came together.
Yeah, so I was in a write session with my good friends Lydia Sutherland, Aaron Pollock, and Rich Cloak, and we just kind of were all connecting on the same idea at the time. Like we wrote this back in 2020, I think it was around December, and we were just all kind of in similar relationships and like situations with our partners, and we just kind of all thought to ourselves like in past relationships. I know for me in particular, I always thought I had to go above and beyond to try and make every moment special. But what I, really found was that if that person was right for you or is right for you, then, you don't really need much to feel on top of the world. And like in the song, I always go, it's like a box of wine and a Sunday, like the same TV show, and that's my kind of paradise. Just basically sitting there with your dream girl. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Perfect.
it's a
And
fun song.
yeah, it sounds great. And it's on country radio, or we were just, or it's
We
going
just
to
took
country
the country radio on Friday.
on
Yeah,
Friday. Perfect. Which that'll be out by the time this is out. So
yeah.
perfection. All right. Available on all platforms as well.
Available on all platforms, whatever you stream on.
Okay, love it, love it. And when it comes to your music, what would be the general message that you're trying to share with your fans and why?
Um, I think it's just about going through experiences in life. I think that as I have more music come out, it will relate to a lot of different situations. I've already alluded to like breakups and being in love and that sort of stuff, but um, I think that within my writing, I just try to be as genuine as possible. And I know that in my heart of hearts, everybody goes through similar things. And I hope that I can write something good enough and articulate it well enough with a really catchy hook that just throws you off guard
Yep.
so that they want to listen to it and they continue to listen to it and they use it, whether it's to cope or to feel good or just feel anything. And I think that's just the main message with anything I put out, that I want to get across to people that I'm fortunate to listen to my songs.
Perfect. Awesome. And do you have any shows lined up at all?
Not yet. It's been a big focus on the release. I'm actually looking to book back in to get out to Calgary to record again.
Yeah,
But within that whole time frame, I'll start to look as things open up. Like Ontario's been a little bit different than Alberta as well. So
true.
as we slowly navigate through this, and hopefully open up and stay open, I'll look to start booking and stuff. It's just like we finally just opened up the other week and it's not at full capacity or anything like that. So I'm really hopeful that, this will all be behind us fairly shortly here, and we can get kind of back to normal programming and I can start booking in some more shows and continue to get out there and just meet people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean it's better to know that the show will stay
Yeah,
on,
exactly.
right? Because it's like I know
Yeah.
artists been having all these issues. Like we book a show, and then it's like we're like, oh, is it going to get canceled? Is it not? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
definitely tough. I feel the pain for a lot of people in multiple industries across. So I'm just hopeful, fingers crossed that the worst is behind us and we can kind of move on from this for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Do you have plans for a music video for your single? By the way.
I haven't yet. I haven't even thought about that. I know a guy. He's up in Edmonton, but
Yeah.
well, his name might be Cody. I don't
I don't know. Some weird guy.
know.
Yeah. Cool,
No,
man.
but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it eventually. We'll have to have a conversation later.
Yeah, we can definitely chat about it.
But
And
nothing in the works as of yet. Just seeing how things go here.
yeah, absolutely. All right. What else is next for you?
Hopefully, get out some more music sooner rather than later, and then start booking some shows. I love being out. I love entertaining. I think I get a lot of joy out of being able to, put on a great show. For me, it's funny. My favorite parts of live shows are the interludes and the little moments that are within the show, and I've always been a sucker for that, and that's what I've always kind of imagined in my brain, I guess, about my own show and wanting to put on shows. So I got to experience a little bit of it with Boots and Hearts, and I'm hoping to expand on that kind of going forward here and whatever stage I get to go on. I always say my goal is to, whether I'm playing for, five people in a small venue or I'm playing for 5,000 people in a little bit bigger or more, to put on a stadium show where it's just an amazing show with a lot of energy, kind of like the one that I experienced when I was at the Kenny Chesney concert with Old Dominion there in 2018. It hooked me in
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, we should try and get you to like Calgary Stampede or something out here.
Yeah, man, I know some tons of people out there now. I feel
Yeah.
like it's a little home away from home. I've only been there once, but I feel like I know so many people now.
Yeah, it's definitely the little hub, that's for sure.
Mm.
You know, like it's I know, do you know Jeff Cato? Have you
Name's
met him?
familiar. I don't think we've ever met or spoke, but
Okay, yeah,
I think I've seen him.
he was out in the Ontario side, but hey man, he made the move to Calgary, so you know,
Did he? Oh, okay. People are
maybe
moving on out. Yeah.
people are moving over here. I mean, you know, I live
Yeah.
here over here, so I mean, I'm not saying it's great or anything, but
I'll put it this way. It was very different from Toronto. I found Toronto was very big and very noisy.
yes,
Whereas when you get out to Calgary, when I was there, I found it was just, I don't even know how to like explain it. It was just, it was a little bit more quiet and more chill is the way it felt to me.
I
I always
believe
get
that.
anxious driving in Toronto. I'm like driving around in my truck and I'm like, there's honking going all over the place. I mean, it's no New York, but it's probably a pretty close second. Whereas in Calgary, I felt pretty laid back.
That's crazy. I've never been to Toronto, but yeah, I hear like driving and everything. It's just hectic. That's what
Yeah,
I hear.
it's hectic for sure.
Crazy. Well, I still need to come visit anyway because I've never been.
For sure.
So, all right, man. Last thing, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Well, pretty well across the board. I mean, I do a lot of stuff on TikTok. TikTok and Instagram are kind of my main platforms as well as Facebook, but Mike Whiteside Music is pretty well that across the board. And then, of course, on all streaming platforms, Mike Whiteside. I've got my two singles out now, and yeah.
Love it. All right, guys, go grab his newest single, "My Kind of Paradise." And Mike, thank you so much for chatting today.
Thanks, Cody. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And yeah, keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right.